Welcome back to Window on Wall Street, a program that shares information about delayed food sensitivities. Sensitivities that may cause symptoms like migraine headaches, chronic fatigue, stress, digestive issues such as IBS, and even ADD, ADHD, just to mention a few. I'm Lauren Koenig, your host, and in today's program, we'll be taking questions from patients who have invested in an Immuno blood print, a simple blood test that identifies foods which could be the cause of many symptoms. My guest today is Jeffrey Zavik, author of the very popular book, Toxic Food Syndrome, and the founder of Immuno Laboratories, the world's most respected source for accurate delayed food allergy test results. Welcome, Jeffrey.
My pleasure.
Now let's take a call.
Hi, I'm Jason from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm a college coach. And I was just wondering, is there any correlation to my players' game and what they're eating at our team meals?
You know, athletes oftentimes, we think of them as being so fit and energetic because of what they're doing to perform. But the fact of the matter is you have to think about what are they doing to fuel the body. And the idea of just taking these energy drinks to temporarily boost the body is certainly not the ultimate answer. So how about finding the foods that are truly harmonious, that are truly energizing to their particular systems to maximize their performance and minimize the recovery time to bounce back more quickly after they've expended the energy. The blood print will certainly help doing that by pinpointing the foods that are not only right for the person to do, but the key ones for them to avoid, and that can really make a difference. And in athletic performance, a small difference is a big difference. In the Olympics, we noticed that many of the first, second, third places were a matter of 1/100th of a second. So the smallest amount of advantage can be the biggest outcome and make a big difference in where the athlete performs and how well they perform.
Now, can you suggest a decent time in an athlete's career or throughout the year when you would suggest to get these tests taken? Because we know that when you take away all these foods that you have, that you're allergic to, you might get tired, go through withdrawal, and that might affect your overall performance. Is there a specific time of year that you would suggest doing this?
Well, I think certainly not in the middle of their competing or something like that. They would do in their proper training as part of a training program. When an athlete's program is laid out, like we're getting you ready for the Olympics, let's now find the importance of food. I noticed that when we saw our great swimmer there doing his thing, they had him eating everything there was. Well, is that really optimal, or is it just about getting all the carbs you can get? And so if you get the right foods in the right quantities, you're going to be far better off in your performance.
Jeffrey, we know that injuries is a coach's worst nightmare, and of course the athlete as well. But do you see any correlation between an athlete's food allergies and recovery time or anything like that?
Well, it is, because again, what we're talking about fundamentally with this whole blood print and pinpointing the right foods is an internal process of inflammation. When a person's eating the food that is toxic to their particular system, it's creating a sense of a form of inflammation. So that's going to not accelerate the healing process, it's going to restrict the healing process. By eliminating the foods that are not causing or fueling inflammation, the body will more quickly recover because the body already knows how to heal itself. We just have to get out of the way. Removing foods that are inflammatory gets out of the way of the body's natural ability to heal.
Now, Jeffrey, we know that consistent wins is the overall goal when it comes to sports. Now, is there something you can touch base on about athletes and the meals that they eat as a team or the habits that they have together and then the differences between each individual athlete?
It would be fascinating to get we talked in another segment about food journal and food diary and like keeping track. Be interesting to see which days and which performances by the athletes were preceded by what type of food. And it'd be very fascinating to study. No one's done this, but I would love to see this done. Let's measure and track the kind of food that each of these top performers are eating and then how their performance is the following day, and see then if when we've tested them, are the days that they're not performing well the days that they're eating foods that are really quite not in harmony with their particular system? I would predict that would be the case. So why is it that a top performing team can do so well in one game and then so poorly in another? Why do they seem to be so strong throughout the entire game and other times they seem to be losing steam in the second half and they just can't quite come around? The fuel, the diet, has to have at least be a factor in the outcome of those games.
Jeffrey, I know in my personal experience, I was a collegiate swimmer, and sometimes I would just never hit those times after eating a pasta dinner the night before, and yet I would manage to get those winning times throughout the season. Do you think that, again, having big pasta dinners with your team is not necessarily a good thing?
Well, I think you've observed it, and the good thing is you saw that, you experienced that. There are many people that just don't make that connection. That link between what you eat and how you feel is huge. I was also a swimmer, a competitive swimmer. I recall once not paying much attention. I was hungry, so I went and ate a rather substantial meal before a very rigorous workout. Well, I had so much gas and indigestion. Every time I came up for air, I was belching instead of breathing it in. It really slowed me down. So there's an absolute connection, and it's one that's often overlooked. We're more concerned about the fuel that we put in our cars than we would be the fuel that we put in our bodies before we perform at our top peak performance in an athletic event. It's crazy.
Now let's talk about the academic side. What do you recommend when you go and take your SAT or ACT or MCAT? What kind of meals do you suggest eating?
Well, in more recent times now, they even tell you, eat a good meal. The problem with good meal or a healthy meal is what's a good meal or good health? And that's where we get back to the whole idea that each person's individual and one person's food's another's poison. That's why we like testing, and to find out what really is in harmony with your system. But imagine something that's dropping your blood sugar is not going to be good for your performance. You want something that keeps you steady, keeps the blood sugar steady. And again, you want to stay hydrated. So there are definite things about diet and what we drink prior to and during the test that would make a difference in our performance. There are some students that perform very poorly on tests, and again, we just can't help but wonder what role the diet and the drinks that they may be having the night or the day before may be having on their performance that day of testing.
Now, as an athlete, would you recommend getting tested more often?
Well, the test should be done once or twice, a couple of times a year, because things change, take a slow period of time to change. Once you've avoided the foods for a period of a few months, that's when you could relook at testing. But the other nice thing is that once you start to wake up, that is, and become aware of the link between what you eat and how you feel, once you have that blood print done, then you become more aware of it, more connected to the diet and its impact. So like you observed earlier about your athletic performance, you start to realize, whoa, what I ate last night affected me today. You didn't need a test to do that.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. Now we've got Dr. Mikhail Parsons standing by with some alternative food ideas. Dr. Parsons, any thoughts for our caller?
One of my pet peeves as a practitioner is when coaches are providing food that is really pathetic as far as meeting any nutritional needs. Potato chips, Twinkies, cupcakes, those kinds of things are not going to build your body up, and it's not going to provide you the nutrients you need to be playing on that A team. If you eat poor quality food, you're going to get a poor quality output. One of the things that we admire with our athletes is how fit they look and how great they look and their energy, and that's something that we desire. I can guarantee you they're not eating that kind of junk. So we shouldn't allow our children to eat those types of foods. I want to share with you an experience with one of my patients who's a volleyball player. They were at a tournament, and so they were playing multiple games over a 2-day time period, and as the kids were starting to reach for their chips and their sodas and those kinds of things, because she's a patient, she was coached to bring healthier foods. We had healthy shakes, snacks, and she outperformed her whole team. And at break, her team members started to follow her and ask her, "What are you eating? What is that? You have all this energy. We want that." So have your kids lead by example, and sometimes that includes coaching the coach on what's going to be a better choice.
Thanks, Dr. Mikhail Parsons, and to you, Jeffrey Zadvik. We'll continue with Window on Wall Street after the break, but may I encourage those of you watching who may have a family member, friend, or coworker experiencing similar health issues to forward the link to this video below to them. And if you haven't had your immuno blood print, please learn more and get yourself tested. Remember, there's a hidden link between what you eat and how you feel. I'm Lauren Koenig, and we'll be right back.